You're watching Washington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
Talking about some heart health issues on this segment of Byline, on this show, in honor of the upcoming Cape Fear Heart Walk. Our next two guests sort of came together through fate, I guess you would say. Bo Dean is the honor scholar, the manager of the honor scholar program at UNCW, and he gives, he's a community activist. He gives generously of his time and his energy to causes he believes in. And not too long ago, he took on a new cause, his issues with weight. So we're going to talk to Bo about that. Adam Freeman is a personal trainer. His late infant daughter made national news when she had a heart procedure, the first ever of its kind on an infant that young. Made national news, and we're going to talk to Adam, who is a personal trainer, and we'll talk about how their lives came together. But first, Bo, has weight always been an issue for you?
Pretty much my entire life. I mean, the first time I remember sort of gaining weight was around the time I was 8 years old, and that has been off and on a challenge most of my life.
Why? Why do you think it's such a struggle?
I think just as my personality in general, I always sort of gravitated towards filling up empty spaces with things, and food was one of those. But food was also, I mean, it was a comfort. It was, as a Southerner, and it's not just regional, but as a Southerner in general, I think that food was also part of holding on to identity. And I was a child of a divorce, and I think Grandma's biscuits and chicken and pastry and things like that sort of always were my identity.
And if you felt bad, you'd eat. If you
exactly.
felt good, you'd celebrate.
Exactly,
and,
exactly.
But you dieted in the past?
I have dieted in the past. The one thing that I think over the last 43, and now I've just turned 44 years, I never did in sync, was to have a right diet and exercise at the same time.
Have doctors said to you, look, your heart could be at risk?
Absolutely.
They have.
And especially since I have heart disease in my family. And that's always been something that has been indicated to me. But in the last decade, it has been a constant message, but it never got as bad as in the last 5 to 6 years when diabetes, actual heart blood pressure issues became.
So you started fearing
constant.
for your health?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so did that trigger this effort?
Well, to some degree. The biggest trigger was, for those of you that know one of my mentors and dear friends, Wendell Daniels, we were at dinner and he literally died at my feet. I mean, he passed away at dinner that night.
He was
a massive heart attack. And his passing, which was an enormous loss to the community, was also a real awakening to my own issues, because I really was in denial about how large I had gotten.
All right, so how if you want to tell the world, what was the peak of your weight?
I peaked at the night that he passed away. I was probably at 320, but I didn't really awaken that night. It was sort of such a shock, and things were so busy at the time, and I was kind of stressed out. I continued to gain weight, but at the peak, about a year later, I got up to 348 pounds. And I ended up in Dr. Buchanan's office, who is one of the best cardiologists I could have ever hoped for. They did scans, and fortunately, I didn't have blockages, but I was told, with the amount of stress in your life and the way that you're going, you know, son, in the next year, you'll be lucky if you didn't have a heart attack. Wow. And I'd gotten involved in the Heart Association because of Wendell, so he had lots of blessings coming to me. And so I started learning about heart disease more impactful at my age. I was on glucophage, I was on lisinopril, I was on the cholesterol medicine. And
all right, so you made a commitment to lose weight.
I started to think, this is where I've got to go. But the problem was, I didn't know how.
Yeah.
And so Christy Tomey from City Council and Ashley Miller from the Cape Fear Heart Walk, Christy was trying to help me figure out how to do an exercise routine. And Ashley was one of my closest friends, was there to try to help figure out a way that I could.
By the way, you'll meet Ashley in our next segment.
But they were trying to figure out a way to sort of intervene, but I just couldn't get it together.
So how did you finally start?
Well, at Christmas last year, this past year, these two women came to me and said, we have met somebody who is willing to give of his time to really help you, but here's the deal. You're such a public person. He will help train you and help change your life if you will do this publicly. If you will go and tell people what's being done for you, he will do this for you for free. And you also have to do this with a doctor, or you have to do this with a dietitian.
Okay, I want to stop there,
Yeah.
and I want to cut to the man that you're talking about.
Right.
I assume you're talking about Adam Freeman.
Right.